Hey friends, welcome. It's been a while as usual. I'm just all over the place these days, and I hope that you are all over the place as well, but in a good way, and that you are having a wonderful start to your fall. Happy October! I'm so excited to be going into this time of year. Yes, I love pumpkin spice lattes. Yes, I love the leaves changing color. I love all of that. I love every bit of it, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I wanted to share with you guys something really special today. So about a month ago, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, it was maybe September 12th or so, I sat down with Wes Sharpton of Hairstory, and we answered all the questions and talked all things like Curly Girl, Wavy Girl 101 from the live that I did on YouTube and Instagram and Hairstory social chat back in, I want to say it was in July. So this has kind of been an ongoing thing, but this is the final piece. And if you didn't get to watch this live on the Hairstory social chat I did back in September, I wanted to share it with you here. Of course, if you like videos like these, be sure to subscribe, hit that little thing down at the bottom and get notified every time I post a new video. And of course, jump on over to thewavylife.com so that you can sign up for my email list. I send out newsletters occasionally. I always send out sales, seasonal tips and tricks, things like that. And I've got new classes coming out all the time. Right now I have 3 classes on thewavylife.com and more are in the works. So without further ado, this is a little interview with me and Wes Sharpton talking about, yes, Hairstory products, of course, but also Wavy Girl 101. What are the things you need to know? What are the most asked questions that I get? And how can you best take care of your hair? Let's dive in.
Today is the day. So this is going to be a really special event. We've got Alyson Lupo here, and I love Alyson. So I
Hi!
how much
I
I
love you,
love
Wes.
you. So
You're the
um,
cutest.
this is gonna be great. So we'll kind of give everybody a little bit of background. Some people may be kind of joining new to this, but we really like I think it's so cool. So Allison did something that I don't think has ever been done in the history of anything before.
It's because I've lost my mind. I've lost my mind. Okay. I was so, y'all don't know what a mess I was before that event, but go ahead, continue.
Yeah, we
Continue
had
what
this
no one else
event.
does because they know better.
We had this awesome event where you were really working through and helping someone kind of experience and work with their curl.
Yeah.
And instead of picking a platform, Allison was like, let's do all of the platforms. So we had Hair Stories social chat going, we had YouTube going, we had IG going, like all live, all at the same time, which was really cool and really special, and I really thought was really sweet. Now, the only thing that happened with that event, because there's so many things going on, from a viewer, you could join in from any place that you felt most comfortable with, or anywhere that you had kind of got the notification. Now, the only thing is that Allison, while superhuman, is not is not superhuman enough to do all of that and answer all of the questions that were coming in. So
Right.
there are some questions that were really kind of flown in that we really want to make sure that we go ahead and tackle today. Um, and also, any of the questions that you just might have for Allison, please throw them in the chat as you're joining. Also, I highly recommend that you all check out Allison's classes. They are at the side. You can also book with Allison. Where are you at? Where are you located at?
I'm in Dallas. So I'm in
You're
Dallas, Texas. It's an easy flight for just about anybody. And I do have a few clients that fly in. So
Yes.
it's fun. But the classes online are really like
Yep.
how I try to come to your living room or to your bathroom or whatever room you're watching me in.
Yep.
I know we didn't talk about this when we talked a little bit earlier, but my low density love class is live right now. And I'm so excited about it because I've been doing one of the pre-order bonuses. Those are closed now, but one of the pre-order bonuses before it went live was a series of live Q&As in a small group setting. And they've been really fun. And I have gotten such good feedback from them. And one of the people said on my last one, I think it was on Friday, she said, I just
I want to thank you for using an actual low density model, because I watch these classes, or I watch people on YouTube that say they're going to use somebody low density and they're not. And like, I can't see myself there. And so that meant a lot to me. So, and Beth is a client of mine and she's a client friend. So, she was my model for the class, and everything you see is real.
I
So that class is still open, and it will be open until I'm able to schedule our full group class walkthrough in mid-October. So,
I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. And of course, you guys should follow Allison's IG if you're not already following, because it is always a wealth of information, and always like kind of like you're gonna find out what's going on, right? So that's the important thing. You'll know what's happening. But I think to start off, I think let's talk about some of the terminology. So because there's going to be people out here, there's also people who are going to be discovering this later on, and I want to go and ask you just one question. Because we just said we were talking about low density, low density, high density, all of that stuff. Let's really break that down for people who may be not familiar, or I think there are a lot of people also, because of your presence and your help, are really kind of going, well, maybe I could wear my hair in its natural state. Like
yeah.
they're thinking it's possible. So I think that I really, really kind of want to start with maybe some of the terminology
Yes.
that maybe language is not familiar to them, because they've just been like, well, I know I've been called fine hair, I've been called thick hair, I've been blowing it out for 20 years, and now I'm ready to take this leap and actually explore what that would look like. So let's kind of break down some of that terminology for everybody.
Okay, let's do that. I'm also going to rewind the tape even further a little bit for the people that might be super duper new. If I know you guys email about these events, so I might have some people on here or watching this later that don't follow me on Instagram, that aren't on YouTube, and they're like just getting into what does it even mean to have wavy or curly hair. So this this is the book that I think so many of us start with or started with. So this is Curly Girl, the handbook. It's by Lorraine Massey. She is the brilliant lady who started Diva Curl. She wrote this book over 10, it probably was about 15 years ago now. And it's a really helpful starting place. It's got a lot of the terminology in it that we talk about on these calls, but it's also a rule book, and it stresses people out a little bit. And so while I think it's a really good place to start and just familiarize yourself with the idea of treating your hair differently, um, I think it's a good place to start for that. But it's also not a hard and fast rule book. So I want people to sort of take that and like grain of sand it, you know what I mean? And say, okay, this is a good place to start, but I'm going to move on now and simplify. And what I want people to really understand is what is their hair made of, so that they can understand how to work with it, and what
Right.
are the properties. And I'll talk about what I mean by properties, but what are the properties that tell me what I need to know about my hair? When you buy laundry, you go, oh, look at the tag in the back. How am I going to wash this? Am I going to put this on delicate cycle? Am I going to hand wash this? Nobody wants those things. That's too complicated. We
Right.
want the wash and wear. Okay. So
Exactly.
we got the cotton. So we want to try to treat the hair like cotton, but it's not cotton. And that's where the new wash comes in. So we'll talk about all that.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, so I think that's really cool and important. I think in the beginning, what happens when there's no information, I think people
Yeah.
come out with information, and there's
Yes.
there's a lot of kind of hard rules, and then as time goes on, we kind of get more nuanced. We get more gray because we have that. So looking at a book like that as just kind of your foundation for understanding,
Yes.
but understanding that you can definitely that you might be in a gray area there, and actually there is a way to kind of look at this in a really easy way, which is what I love that you've done. You've taken some of these things that are perceived as really hard, like a regimented thing, and been like, how can we modify this to actually make it work for you and your life? And let's get you into cotton, honey, because that's gonna that's gonna make your life a lot easier.
It's in
So
the cotton. And this is a very much one size fits all kind of approach, but it's still good for giving you that initial structure. But when you
awesome.
get out of that, you do need to look at what are the things that I need to know about my hair so that I can figure out how to give it what it needs. You think of these things when you feed your body, when you clothe your body, but we don't think about these things when it comes to our hair. So let me talk for a second about those three properties that you mentioned, Wes,
Yeah.
or the properties, the ones that I think about. Of course, there are a lot of scientific properties to one's hair, but these are the ones that we're going to talk about. So the first is density. So I'll reference that as it relates to the low density love class. So density is no more than how many hairs of head you have on, I'm sorry, how many hairs you have on your head. It could be per square inch if you want to actually get really scientific about it, or you can just say how much scalp, like, can I actually see at any given time? Or you can also say, how thick is my ponytail? So there are different ways of kind of measuring or getting a feel for your density without having to actually like try to measure the hairs on your head. Okay.
Right.
So density is important because it tells you how long it's going to take your hair to dry.
Mm,
It tells you how much product you're going to need to use. It's going to tell you how long your haircut's going to take.
yeah.
It informs you about how you're going to need to plan for and treat your hair, and plan for your budget too, because sometimes with those with high density, they want to use the nicest products, and that's totally fine. And if money is no object, then go for it. But for some people, it's like, oh, I'm going to go through that one thing of gel or cream in like 3 wash days. That's not going to work for me. And so we have to kind of modify. And so also for those people that have lower density, it might work for them to use lighter products rather than heavier products so they don't weigh down their more fragile, potentially,
Right.
hairs. Okay. Another property is going to be porosity. And that's just
Mm,
basically how porous is your hair. So going back to the famous Lorraine Massey, she talks a lot about you visualizing like a closed or an open pine cone as your hair cuticle, which is the outermost layer of your hair. So that cuticle, um, when it is new and it's coming out of your head, for most people, I believe that it's closed. And so it is smooth, it is hydrated, it doesn't need a lot. And then as it continues to grow out of your head, it has more history on it, which means it rubs on your pillowcase, it rubs on your shirt the longer it gets. It's seen more sunshine, more wind, more pollen, more styling products, all the things. So it has, the longer it is, the more history it has on it. And the more history it has on it, the more open that cuticle becomes. And so it can
mm,
be more prone to tangling, more prone to dehydration, all of those things. Okay. So when we think about that, we think about, if my hair is higher porosity, I know it's color treated, I know it's long, etc. I know it's delicate. I think, how can I fill those gaps to help it? How can I use lower pH products to help those cuticles, that cuticle to stay closed so it's not so tangly? Again, that's where the new wash comes in. Then the last one, let's see, we've got density, porosity, and texture. Now, texture is actually, it's talked about in several different ways. Some people talk about it in how straight, wavy, or curly your hair is. I'm not going to talk about it that way for the purposes of this talk. The way I'm going to talk about it, and this is another definition of it, is what is the actual diameter of your hair strands.
mm,
You don't have to know the actual diameter. You don't have to put it under a microscope to know those things, but it is helpful to know, do I have coarse hair, strong and wiry, very strong? I prefer to say strong or coarse. Do I have hair that's just kind of medium? Most people
mm.
have medium textured hair. So they will tend to think, oh, my hair's really coarse or it's really fine, because we tend to pick one side or the other. That's
Right.
why we have a two-party system. But anyway, so they tend to think they're one or the other, but really most of us have moderate hair strands.
Okay.
Then when it comes to those with really fine hair, very delicate, very thin, easily broken, doesn't do well with lightening services a lot of the time, that hair is a whole different ballgame. So knowing those three things about your hair, oh, let me go back to the texture real quick and why it's important. So the reason that your texture is important, if you have strong, wiry individual hairs, you might have up to 18 tightly compacted layers of cuticle in each hair strand. And so that hair generally doesn't benefit from a lot of added protein in your products unless it's very damaged, and it can work like a straitjacket on that hair.
Mm,
Do you see that too?
yeah.
Yeah, it can really cause breakage over a long period of exposure. So it doesn't really do anything for that hair. For really finer hair types, you might have 5 or 6 delicate layers of protein making up the outside cuticle of that hair. And so that hair can really benefit from an added layer of protein in your cleansing or styling products because it gives it structure. And so it gives it what it needs to be able to defy gravity a little bit and curl up a little bit more. Medium textured hair, they get a little bit of everything. So
Right.
yes, yes.
Awesome. I
So those
love
are
that.
those properties that are helpful to know.
I love that. And I think like moving forward, this is going to be very, very helpful for people to kind of understand this and just kind of starting to kind of I know some things feel kind of overwhelming when you're starting, like as a as a person trying to navigate your own hair at home. I find that that can be one of the most challenging things that we deal with. So, looking back at some of these things and don't feel bad. Like I always say when you're learning something new, allow yourself some space to actually allow growth to happen. So you don't need to get it 100% right. That's why
No,
we
get it
record.
wrong. You
But yeah,
have to get it wrong
yeah.
sometimes. Absolutely, you do, because then you know what right is. You know what right
Ex
looks like if you've gotten it wrong a few times.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I kinda wanna dive into, we already have a question that I think is gonna be really perfect, segue from what we just discussed. So Cynthia really says, that, they have low density, fine hair, and, they're struggling when it is dripping wet. It looks flat when dry. Any
Hmm.
suggestions or tips?
So many. I mean, where do I start? So, the first thing I'm going to tell everybody on here is to not be afraid of your hair. I see that all the time is that when people start styling it different, when they stop blowing it out and using the round brush and straightening it and trying to manipulate it, they start to baby it instead. And then they become very afraid of it. Oh, I might mess it up. I
Uh-huh.
might mess up those clumpy clumps. Don't be afraid of it. You are going to mess it up. You're going to mess it up many times, and that is how you learn what works. But what works for somebody with fine, low density hair? It's the person that is fine, low density, and wants definition that I always am like, oh, my heart goes out to you because that is the toughest like trifecta. So I would urge you, what is your name, lovely Cynthia? I would urge you, Cynthia, to most definitely shoot for a little bit more in the way of volume or texture. If you have to be on that seesaw of um, volume versus definition. We talk about it being a seesaw. If you're not familiar with these terms, definition is just more defined individual curls. Volume is going to be capturing and enjoying some of that functional frizz that naturally happens when our curls separate from their little families and giving us this outward appearance. This is crown lift. This is volume. So if it looks flat, it sounds like you're struggling with crown lift. That is where I love to reach for these, and it's really a technique question. I'm sorry if that was loud. I love to reach for these. These are little double prong clips. I've talked about them a lot. You can
Mhm.
find these at Sally Beauty Supply. They come in a giant box or in a small package. It's really wonderful. I love them because you can use these when your hair is, I prefer to use them when my hair is a little bit more on the damp side, but it's taking pieces of hair and a small section when your hair is about halfway dry, and then clipping that up right in here. And that gives you a bit of lift right here. And if you are a wavy, then it takes a little bit of runway for your curl pattern to establish. If you only knew me right here, you'd think I had straight hair. But then I get
Right.
to right about here and oh, there's something else there. So as a
Mhm.
wavy, it takes some time for that that wave to establish its curl pattern. But when you use these, and they are tricky to use, and I will ask you to try them a dozen times before you feel like you are doing it correctly for you. And there is no doing it the same every day. There is only identifying where am I flat, where do I need lift, and taking small 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch sections and pinning them up to create texture that gives you more of the appearance of having more curl up at the top of your head. It also helps us to dry faster. This is my favorite technique that exists. I love these little things with all my heart. And start rust in my barbicide, and I'm like going to Sally's. I gotta get a new package. I'm in a new box because I love them. These things are amazing, and there are a lot of other techniques that you can use. I've seen like the large claw clips that people use. I feel like those work better for curly. Lorraine Massey, to go back to her again, has come out with these little things. It looks like a fan. Have you seen them? It looks
No.
like it looks like you take like an Afro pick almost, but then they're like spread out like a fan, and they're metal, and you take them and you just mesh them across the top of your head.
Oh,
Just
interesting.
pop them right in. They're really neat. A
Clever.
client of mine had them. She did not love them. And so she's like, here, play with these. I thought they were really cool, but I do think they work better for someone that has a little bit more texture because they don't need as much help establishing
Right.
texture here. I need that help. So this is how I prevent this. But when we're talking about products too, there are a lot of products that can really help to maintain that or to extend the volume and texture you've created. So I grabbed some of my favorites. They do happen to be Hairstory products. I'll warn you. So Lift is a wonderful hairspray. I love this one if you are not on the oily side. If you are on the drier of scalp side, I tend to reach for this one. If you are an oilier scalped person and it's second or third day hair, I tend to reach for powder. So I like this one because it kind of doubles as a dry shampoo, but it's clay based. So it gives you like a really nice amount of lift and grit up in here that you can kind of during the day, you know, take a little bathroom break from your office job and you just skip down the hall and you do a little bit of this and like you've got some lift and some volume that's going to last you for a while. This is more like a hairspray and I love it, but a little goes a long way. So like hold it up high, one spray, maybe one here, and then hit that with the diffuser. Hit them both with the diffuser if you can, because they are both heat activated. And that really makes a big difference in terms of building your lift back. So these to me, you could use this one on day one, like over your clips after you sort of have them established and then kind of hover diffuse with your dryer. That could be a day one product. This one could be day one too if you don't mind a gritty scalp or if you wash your hair every day, which is totally fine. But I tend to reach for this on like days 2 or 3. So that is what I would say for establishing lift and a little bit more volume. This is undressed. This is a great product to use out on the sides, on wash day, on refresh days, to establish a little bit more volume out here and a little bit more texture if you're a little bit finer. It's like a sea salt spray without the sea salt. So you're not going to dry out. It really works well on day 1, day 2, day 3 hair when you want to build this out a little bit more. But again, when you're fine and when you're lower density, you almost have to style for definition and then you have to fluff the crap out of it.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's kind of like understanding kind of like like it's almost like looking at something and going, you know what? Like I need to build it to kind of break it, right?
Oh,
And
yes, absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know, and I think sometimes there's other types of people where they're already very defined and they actually need to just break it, right? But sometimes you got to build and break, and so I think it's really really awesome.
And for those people that want to keep that definition too, they're going to build it for definition and they might leave that cast in all day long. I've got a client whose favorite day is her second day hair because she leaves her cast in all day long. She's a little curlier, so you kind of can't tell as much that it's quite as casty, but she also works from home. So she's like, it's fine. I just leave my cast in all day and then sleeps on it at night. And the next day, she's still got a lot of definition. So, there are a lot
Unless
of ways to do this. And that's why playing with those rules and then figuring out which ones actually work for you is so key.
I love that. And so I think there's definitely like a couple things that you know I kind of want to like dive into. I think one of the things when people are playing, I always let them know, like I think what people do is they put their life in like this one time. And when I'm trying to teach somebody about like something new, I go, you know what? Why don't you do it when you got nothing to lose? Everyone's like, I'm gonna do it on a Monday morning when I gotta be at work at 9. I'm like, honey, that is not the time for you. You need to do it on a weekend and see what
It is
happens.
not the time
Because
for you.
like,
Yes.
you know, so give yourself that space to learn and
Yeah.
to grow
Yeah.
and experiment with.
And
Um,
people will say, oh, I don't want to use my nice products if I'm not going into work. And I'm like, but two things. Number one, every day is a learning opportunity. So like
exactly.
whenever you get the chance to learn, even if you aren't going anywhere, like that might be a good time to experiment. And number two, when you're using good products, they feed your hair from the outside in,
Yeah,
So like
exactly.
don't not take your vitamins because you aren't going anywhere. So
And we do have a couple questions that I do want to definitely dive
let's do it.
into.
Let's do it.
But I do want before we dive into that, I do want to clarify some more terminology. So when you say cast,
Yes. Oh, that's a good one.
what does that mean?
Any product that you use on your hair, like as a styling product, whether it just be conditioner. Conditioner was a very popular just styling product a while ago, a few years ago. Some people may still be doing that method. Then there's also different creams, cream gels, mousses, foams, whatever, use gels as a styling product, even if it's a sea salt spray. Once your hair dries, once that water evaporates, that product leaves behind some kind of signature. And whatever that signature is it leaves some kind of outside feeling on your hair. And that outside feeling, be it just a tiny bit of stiffness or be it a real crunch, is your cast. It's a gel cast, like on your arm. It's like a cast, but it's a good cast. It's not a cast because you hurt anything. So it's a cast, and it's there for you to fluff or break or whatever you want to call it as desired. You want to leave the cast in for a long period of time? Fantastic. You want to break it immediately because you want a lot of it. You have to approach the breaking of the cast with intention. What is your intent? Do I want a lot of definition? Leave that cast in as long as you can. Do I want a lot of bounce and fluff and like beachy look? Then you break that cast right after it's done drying. So that all has to do, I'm going to get a little sciencey here, with the hydrogen bonds of your hair all finding each other, you know, post dry, as they're drying, as your hair is setting. All these things take time because your hair is but strands of protein growing out of your hair. So as it's drying and as those bonds are setting and continuing to find each other and creating the form that your hair is going to be in, the longer that cast is in, the longer it protects those little curls and all that shape that you've worked to create, either with your hands or with your blow dryer, your diffuser. The longer that sits in there, the longer it protects the shape that you have worked to create. And if you're a wavy, you've helped to embrace and encourage a little bit more than maybe someone who's a bit on the curlier side.
Awesome. So good. So now y'all are understanding the cast. We're really getting, I love
I
how
love that this is Curly Girl, like Wavy Girl 101, because I haven't done that in so long. This is so needed. This is so needed.
So we're going to start with a question that actually came, that popped up at our last event. You know, as you guys will notice, Kat will be popping in these questions along the way. You might be like, God, this Kat person has a lot of questions. Those are questions that we got.
A little wrench by them. As you can see that on their end, it shows them that she's popular. These came from the class back in July, which if you guys haven't watched the class from back in July, I did a live styling class back in July. The link is still up there. I'll be sharing that in my Instagram. And I don't know if there's a way for us to populate that link here in the chat box, but that would be really helpful so that you guys can copy that and you can put it in a browser window later if you didn't get to watch the first time. It was wild, but it was cool. It was really fun.
Really fun. So I like my loose beachy waves styled with undressed for a casual look. But is there any way to get it to clump more?
Okay. Yes. So I have a couple of thoughts about that. Number one, let's talk about technique and then we'll talk about product. So technique, always styling on wetter hair. Anytime you want more clumpiness, that means you want more definition. So when we talk about styling for definition, we're talking about how to get those big, I don't even have any really. I have some that are trying to come back since I'm growing out this pixie cut. So here's one, if y'all can see this little guy. He is trying to make a comeback. I've got this little guy right here who's trying to make a comeback. So those are what we would call curl families or a clump. You know what, in the curly world, Wes, do you find this as interesting as I do? Like, I think it's the same in every industry, but we have our own language. Like we have our own, in fact, I'm working on writing a book right now. And I'll tell you the name of it. I haven't shared it with anybody. It's called What the Frizz.
That is awesome.
I'm so excited about it, but I have to finish editing it. So I've been sitting deep under my rear end for a long time and I need to get back out and like get back to it. But anyway, I'm including in that book some kind of a glossary of terms so that and it will ever change. And some of the words will be outdated in 2 years. And that's just the way it rolls in this world, but that's fine. So we have our own language. So curl families, curl clumps, they all mean the same thing. And basically it means that, to go back to that technique, it means that you're styling when the hair is extra wet and drippy, which if you're going from having blown out and heat styled your hair for a long time, and now you're saying, I want to be curly and I want to look like a supermodel. Number one, that's not going to happen. Take some time to get there. Number two, putting products on wet hair feels really wrong the first time you do it, especially when you're using something like a hair cream. This is a great product to use for adding some definition into your hair. This is kind of a cream gel in a way because it's got so much protein in it. It gives the hair that structure and helps it be clumpy. But when you're applying this to wet hair for the first time, you're like, why does it feel like I'm putting mayonnaise in my hair and I'm going to use a blow dryer on it now? And it is so wrong. But a little bit of this goes a long way for what it's worth. So I appreciate that. So when you're styling for definition and you want your hair to be clumpier and curlier, always on wetter hair, always with thicker styling products. So I'm a big fan of incorporating a cream into your product lineup, especially as we go into fall and winter and those dew points start to drop and the hair is going to get staticky, and you're just going to know I can't use the same routine I used in the summertime. It's not going to work for me. So this is probably my favorite in the Hairstory lineup for styling products. I love pairing these two. Actually, this is my favorite. Like, this is my baby. If this ever went anywhere, I would cry. I would cry. I would cry. I would sob. You would hear me all the way in New York. But I love these two together. They work together almost like a gel. Now, Wes and I were chatting earlier, and he had a wonderful suggestion too that I haven't played with yet, but I plan to. So Hairstory also has a product called Wax. My husband's like, what? Why is it called wax? I'm like, because it's fun to say.
Yeah.
So they have a wax. Now, wax can be used. It's basically a pomade, and it can be used to on anyone's hair to touch up little areas like this. And that's kind of what I use it for from time to time, is to like keep this from falling over, to define a little curl here on day 2 or 3, even day 1. But wax can be combined in your hand, can be cocktailed. I don't always recommend cocktailing because you got to know they work. So again, going back to, you got to experiment on a day that it doesn't matter. You know, you've got to make sure that they work together. But Wes knows that these two do work together. So a little bit of wax in the hand, warmed up and made a little melty, combined with a little hair balm in the hand and made a little melty, rubbed together and then applied to the hair in whatever way you think works. He said gives a lot of definition. So I love that tip because I had not thought of doing that. Because, you know, I don't cocktail. I shy away from that because I've had so many mistakes over the years. I think everyone on this chat probably knows that, like, sometimes you do that and you don't look closely enough at it and you put it in your hands or you're in your hair, and then you're drying your hair later and you're like, why is it flaking? What have I done? And you can't undo it at that point. There is only wash again.
Right.
And so you have to know. And one way you can tell it's not foolproof, but it's pretty close, is it creamy in your hands once you've mixed the two of them together? If it's smooth like butter, then you should be good. But if it clumps up and looks like oatmeal, rinse it off. Don't put it in your hair.
Yeah, exactly. Or like little beads or something. It's
little
weird.
beans. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like what I can't even remember what the term I've heard for that is, but something shattering within it. So like those molecules, or for whatever reason, they didn't work together. They did not like each other. They were repelled by each other. And so they just, awful. So I do, but going back to what I have tried and what I like to use is I like on my own hair, and I have kind of a medium density, medium hair type. I'm probably on the finer side because my hair just loves some protein. But I love maybe one pump of this on wet. And when I say wet hair, I mean, it's still dripping, but it's not like a sheet of water that I'm trying to rein in and put products on. I might squish it out, just a little bit of water with like an open palm squish, just to get the tiniest amount of water out of my hair. And then go in with like maybe a half to a full pump of hair balm, because again, a little goes a long way. And that gets applied maybe on the last 6 inches of my hair, 4 inches of my hair. I try to keep it away from my scalp because I like that lift that I can get there. And then some undressed gets sprayed all around it. I used undressed a lot also halfway through diffusing. So if I notice any areas are separating and becoming a little frizzy, I will spritz some of that in there and then smooth it down and just give it a little come back together again, guys, and then go back in with the diffuser, and that works really well.
I love that. So
technique.
Good.
It's all about you can still fix it. That's, again, don't be afraid of your hair. A lot of things are still fixable if you spray it. Remember, you're breaking those hydrogen bonds and getting everybody to go back where you need them to go. Rewind a little bit.
I love that. Melanie has a question for you that is really about they are growing their gray out, and they're
Oh,
not
bless your heart. That's so hard, but so wonderful.
more. But they do. They want to know if you have any recommendations for a purple shampoo to keep the gray from turning yellow or brassy.
I have two big thoughts about that. The first is that yes, you can absolutely use a purple shampoo or a purple conditioner. Sometimes they can be a little over cleansing. Sometimes they can contain silicones. If you're fine with that, then by all means go for it. I avoid dimethicone specifically in my products because I find it weighs my hair down. It prevents my hair from interacting with the water that's in the air that I cannot see. And so I don't like dimethicone. But if dimethicone is your best friend, then you stay with your best friend. Um, Absolutely, you can do that. You don't have to use it every time. The reason that your hair is turning brassy from from the grays coming in is it's from one of two things. It could be from cigarette smoke if you happen to be a smoker. It could also be from the hard water that you may have in your house.
Mhm.
So if you have minerals in your water, they are going to get right into the sponge that is the hair on your head
Yeah.
real fast. So maybe you only use that purple shampoo once a week, or maybe you use it once a month. You figure out what works the best for you in that regard. If you like your hard water, I tend to like my hard water because my hair tends to be slippery soft. And when
Mhm.
I go to my parents' house where they have hard water, I'm like, my hair's so flat. Ugh. And I'm just like, I just bring this. And I'm like, grit, grit, more grit.
Yeah.
And so that's it for me. I use this like it's a spray gel. It's just layers and layers of this. But if you like your hard water, then the purple shampoo is a fix. You can also go to Sally Beauty Supply, and they have what they call color drops. They're in the back of the store. Ask the lady at Sally Beauty Supply if you can't find them, and you can buy red and blue color drops, and red and blue together make purple.
Right.
So you can mix that with your shampoo. You can mix it in your hand with your new wash if you happen to be using new wash. So you put a little bit of the new wash or your shampoo in your hand, and then put a drop of red and a drop of blue in there, and then mix it up until you get the color that you want. If your hair is a little bit more on the orangey side, if you didn't get a good lift, I don't know what to tell you. If you didn't get a good lift when your highlights were done or something, I know this doesn't apply to you, but for others on the call, go back to your stylist and have that fixed. But you can also help to counter that in the meantime with a little bit more blue than with more red, making that purple. Mix that in your hand, and then you can apply that and leave that on for a period of time. If you happen to not like your hard water, you can always install just like a shower head water softener. They're filled with salt and they will soften your water. You don't have to do a whole house water softener, although your appliances will thank you, but your pocketbook will not.
Right.
If you just get like this little disc, I think Brondell, there's a company called Brondell that makes them in lots of different finishes. And so it can blend right in with your shower. And so it's like a little donut filled with salt that you would install between your shower head and the pipe sticking out of the wall. And voila, you suddenly don't have hard water anymore when you shower.
I love that. And also another thing too, as I've worked with like many colorists along the way, a lot of them, what they love to do on that purple note is they like to take, we have these little tins of we just sell these little tins that you can actually fill with new wash. They're for like traveling or
Yes.
like that. They love taking that and then just doing a couple drops of like Adore, which is like a direct dye, and it comes in a purple.
Hmm.
And you can actually just mix it to that kind of perfect purple tone. That is another option for you because
I
I
love
think you
that.
see people who are like, they love the new wash. And when you're on the new wash and you're detergent free, you're like, I don't want to go down maybe the shampoo road, but how do I combat this? It's like such a struggle for so many people. And so this has been kind of a little bit of a workaround for people, in our industry. So it's been
Where
cool.
do you find the Adore?
So Adore, you can purchase that right on Amazon. It is just
Okay.
a direct dye. It's just called Adore, and they have it in purple. It's going to be very concentrated, but remember, you're going to be mixing it with the new wash, which is much lighter in tone. It's white, so you're going to get that purple. They're going to get
So
that purple.
how dark do you like it to be? Do you like it to be like a little bit more lavender since it is a direct dye, or
I
do
like.
you like it to be?
I've seen mostly a lavender
Yeah.
when it's been
Okay.
used. So
Okay. Cool.
I think I would say like anything that you're doing right in this space, I think the major thing is like we want to kind of start small in these spaces, right? So like,
Experiment.
depending upon the porosity of your hair, right? And
Yes.
someone who's dealing with two different levels of porosity, you might want to just be a little more gentle, and you can always add more drops of that later on. But I say,
Yeah.
you
Start
don't want
small.
your porosity down here is, quite different. You don't want to end up being like, dang, I got purple hair. Like, like we want to be
Unless you want purple hair.
unless you want purple hair, and then we love you for that. So there you go. But if you're just trying to
Yes.
combat some brassiness, then that's
Yes, and of course you could use the Sally Beauty red and blue drops
yep,
to customize that
exactly,
color too in that same
exactly.
tin. I love that idea of the tin because then you have it already done in a small container.
Yep.
Because the idea of, okay, I squeezed my new wash into my hand and now I've got the red and now I've got the blue. Like when you talk about it, it sounds easy. When you're in the shower trying to do these things, you're like, are you kidding with me? I love the idea of having it pre-mixed in a small container because when you start adding things, you decrease the shelf life of that product. So I would never want to put it in like your whole pouch, like squeeze, like cut your pouch
Right.
open, drop it in there. Don't do that. And then
Yeah.
no, don't do that. Like a little bit at a time, maybe like
Yep.
a week's worth would be the way to go. So I love that. I think that's great. And I love that you brought porosity into it too, because the more porous your hair is, the more it's going to suck up that color. And when
Yep.
you're gray, um, those strands need a lot of extra love too. New Wash is perfect for those strands because they really are just so dry. There is something about the actual like melanin that is in your hair that draws water to it. Even when have you seen this, Wes? When you dye people's hair, that their hair absorbs water better. Like there's something about the dye that like just them to draw water to that hair, even if they're 100% gray. It's when
Yeah.
they start growing it out that like suddenly the hair just does not want that water anymore. It doesn't absorb it. And so you have to use products that keep that cuticle closed. You have to use creams. You have to use so many things that like, I'm going to hydrate you whether you like it or not, hair. Yeah.
You're getting hydrated today, honey.
Getting hydrated.
Awesome. So Carrie has a question. They struggle with maintaining hold with their products, even those labeled hard hold. No matter how good my clumps look when I leave the house, they gradually dissolve into frizz as the day goes on. I am fine, medium to high density 2BC.
Okay. Okay. Hold on. I'm trying to find her question, but I just don't see it.
It's you know what? It's because I would have you scroll up, my love.
Okay. I like to read it with you. I see Rachel. Oh,
Oh,
I see it. I
so
see.
we gotta go up a little higher. Perfect.
Okay. 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 So I couldn't find it, but that's okay. So it disintegrates into frizz throughout the day, even though she's using hard hold gels. What I would tell you, I would ask you so many questions about your hair. I would say, when did you start on your like healthy hair journey? What does that look like for you? Are you deep conditioning very often? Because most of the time when I see hair that has so many products on it in order to try to really control it, um, there are a couple things that work. Number one, the hair is just so dehydrated on a deep level that it's just not able to do what it wants to do, which is stay clumpy. But it also could be very, very wiry, very coarse, strong strands. And I find that that hair also a lot of the time, it has its own recipe. Like it wants to do its own thing. And when those hairs, when they're new, when they're growing in, they grow in straight up and they tend to kind of stick out and do their own thing. So yes, hard hold gels are very helpful there, but also avoiding products with a lot of alcohol in it and avoiding products with a lot of protein is also generally pretty helpful. I would love a product like wax for that kind of hair. I haven't played with wax as much as I want to. I need to play with it more. The product that I've played with a little bit more for that is an InnerSense product. It's called texturizing hair paste or something like that. It's got a very long name, Inner Peace Whipped Texturizer or something like that. And it's kind of like wax, but just a little bit softer. And so when you use a product like wax or like that one, you tend to want to like warm it up in your hands first, and then you can just kind of smooth it over the top when it's completely dry and then sort of zhuzh it back into place and let it be. It's like a really soft hold hair. I shouldn't say soft hold. It's like a soft, waxy hairspray, but you really can't see it on the hair. And you don't have a lot of feel to it. It just gives it back some clumpiness. And then of course you can work that down into the strands as well. So you might need to reevaluate your styling products is what I would guess. Kind of a midday touch-up sort of routine, but
Mm.
also think about your like long-term healthy hair plan and what does that look like? Are you using a conditioner? What are you shampooing with? Is it over cleansing for your hair? Are you using a leave-in conditioner? Because that really comes down to being a pH game. You want to close the cuticle after you have finished rinsing your hair, and a low pH product will help to close that cuticle back up so that your hair stays hydrated longer. And then when you're styling, you don't usually want to go straight to gel. I love using a cream of some sort under your gel. Make sure that they work together, and you can always test them, even if you don't cocktail them, by putting a little of each into your hands and rubbing them, making sure they're friends. Because once you get into scrunching and diffusing, if they're not friends, you'll find out pretty fast. So using a cream, using something to keep your hair hydrated, be a styling product like a cream, a leave-in conditioner, and then putting your gel on top of that. And then also making sure that you're deep conditioning maybe every other week. I prefer once a month for most people, but it depends on how dehydrated, how porous the hair might be, and how coarse the hair might be, and what you're using.
And that's also so interesting too, because I think that that is something that we oftentimes really forget about is our foundation and how we're treating kind of our how we're treating our hair, right? Like, and how we're reaching for, sometimes I feel like sometimes we're reaching for the styling and expecting it to do this thing, but there's a foundation that we need to also address at the same time. And I also want to ask you this too, Alyson, because for a lot of people, I think when we hear the word, you know, moisture, or we're looking for something that is, in that family, or but we don't think about maybe like a cream. We just think, well, my hair gets kind of fuzzy or frizzy, um and I just think I need to grab for the hold product, because
Yeah.
that's going to be the answer for me. And also, I think it also depends upon your relationship. A lot of times, our interpretation of moisture can sometimes come from humidity as well. And whether you
Yes.
like humidity or don't, I have clients that are like, my best life is in humidity, and I have others that are like, get me the hell out of this humidity. I look crazy.
Yeah.
So so sometimes we think of, because we always just think like, oh, humidity is the moisture in the air, and that's like frizz. And so I want to get clear on what that means in terms of adding more moisture to hair types that have a tendency to dry frizzy.
Okay. So I know that sometimes I slip up and I use the term moisture and hydration interchangeably. And truly, if I back up and I like make myself really say it the right way, hydration is everything to do with water.
Mm.
So I try to remember to not say moisture, but I think kind of moisture as being more emollient type ingredients, like conditionery type ingredients or hair cream type ingredients that help to coat the hair shaft a little bit and allow it to maintain the hydration, any water the hair has been able to absorb from your shower, from your bath, from the air around it, and also still interact with that air, that water in the air. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So emollient ingredients are going to be like, let me see if I can find some on here real quick. Emollient ingredients are going to look like this: cetearyl alcohol, cetyl alcohol, stearyl alcohol. Those are fatty alcohols that are going to kind of coat the hair strand. There are many more, but those are just kind of a smattering of ingredients. And I've got an old YouTube video that might be helpful to some people, where I think it's called Ingredients 101,
Mm.
What Does What? And that's from years ago, but I mean, it still stands. And so, like, if you want to know about ingredients and you kind of want to deep dive into what does what, then that would be a good place to go look for the actual ingredients that you would want. So that's how I think of moisture versus hydration, but they do work together, because you need to hydrate the hair, and then you need to use those emollient type ingredients to help the hair stay soft and pliable, and also to protect and retain some of that hydration in the hair.
I love that. I love it.
I'm so glad. Sometimes I'm like, am I making sense?
No, I
Cynthia,
know.
I just saw Cynthia's question real quick. She asked if I could repeat the name of the saltwater softener. It's Brondell. That's the one. They sent me one a long, long time ago, and that's where I discovered I did not. I like my hard water. I
Yeah,
was like, oh no. Oh no, no, no. I need my hard water. But this could be helpful for other people to know. It's
yes, exactly.
Brondell. So
Exactly.
they're the one that I've played with. It was really easy to install. I haven't played with others, but I'm sure there are many other out there. So if you just Google like shower head water softener, you'll find a lot of options out there.
I love that. And then we do have one question previously um, from our session many moons
Yes,
ago, not many moons, but a moon ago at least.
many moons.
Um, do you use New Wash low poo on your hair? This person, Heidi, had tried Diva Curl low poo and it weighed their hair down.
It's okay. Listen, Wes, I'm going to lean on you a little bit here because I want to really know. I don't know if you can tell me. I don't know if you're allowed to tell me. What is the magic? What is the magic in here? Is it the combination of oils? Because here's what I find to be so interesting about this. I have used the Diva Curl no poo. It weighed my hair down. It also did make my scalp itch, but it weighed my hair down. I used As I Am co-wash cleansing conditioner. I think it's called. I think this is called cleansing conditioner. Conditioning co-wash. It says co-wash on the bottle, on the tub, and that is definitely my favorite co-wash that I would find at like Walmart or Target or a drugstore for sure. But even that one I found weighed my hair down after like 2 uses. And so I have a very old YouTube video again. I think it's called My Rotating Routine. And that's when I first started playing with co-washes.
Mhm.
I started out using sulfate free shampoos first, and then I went into co-washes, and then I was like, whoa, well, my hair, like I can't do too much of this, but I like the way my hair looks, but my scalp's not really happy, or my hair's really flat. And so then I kind of created this very complicated, because I've experimented with everything. People were like, Alyson,
Mhm.
can you post a cleansing calendar? They wanted me to make a cleansing calendar. I was like, my goal in life is to simplify. I don't want to
Right,
give you this complicated thing to do. So I
right.
never did do that because I was like, this is what I'm doing. This is what's working, but there's got to be an easier way. And
Yeah.
so this did really become my easier way. So I was co-wash, sulfate free shampoo. Co-wash, sulfate free shampoo. And I only washed my hair like maybe 2 or 3 times a week. So trying to keep up with what did I do last time became like,
Mm.
woo. So I do use this almost every single time I wash my hair. I maybe will like reach for a gentle shampoo maybe once a month. Sometimes I'll use the InnerSense scalp scrub. They have a salt-based scalp scrub that has a couple of surfactants in it. If I've gone for like 6 days or something without washing my hair, and I just know, like, it's just too much. This would probably do the trick, but I just feel like I want to get my fingernails in there. So a salt scrub is really good. So I'll use that just on my scalp, and then I'll come back and then rinse that out and cleanse overall with this. But I don't know. This does not weigh my hair down. I
Nope.
only cleansed with this today. I didn't even remember to use the scrubby thing. And I feel like my hair is almost squeaky. It stays clean. I haven't used a shampoo in probably a month and a half or something like that. And I just want to know what's the magic, because when people ask me, I'm like, I really don't know.
So I can kind of give you some of the magic.
Okay.
So a lot of people call it magic. It's actually really just science. So
Mhm.
really at the end of the day, what
I
happens.
think all magic is science.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So really, when we think about new wash, we say that it is detergent free because it is detergent free. So the thing that you must know about detergents to start off is detergent scientifically is actually liquid soap. That is how you define it. So soap is the solid form of soap, and detergent is the liquid form of soap. And so a detergent is really designed scientifically to essentially bond to the thing that you want to remove, which is the oil or the lipid. And
Mhm.
then it is designed to bond to water in an equal charge. And because those are equally charged, it
Mhm.
doesn't really understand, it's not gentle enough, even if it's a gentle shampoo, no offense,
Oh, I'm not offended.
it bonds so intensely to both, that it just really kind of takes everything out. So think
It
of it
strips
like this.
everything off.
It strips everything off. So what we're really doing, we have to understand that actually the oil that we're actually producing is our body's way of creating something to kind of protect and nourish the hair, to nourish that protein, right? But what happens is, like, we were talking about earlier, your hair has a porosity, right? And so there's only so much of that oil will actually get into where it needs to be. It also becomes a lot it also becomes a lot trickier to get that nourishment past a certain point, in particular if you are a wavy or curly person, because it's trying to travel down bends, right?
Yes.
Which is why a
Yes.
long time ago we'd be like, brush your hair. It was really designed to, move oil down the strand.
Yes. Those like boar bristle brushes
Yes.
move
And
that oil
so
down.
and so really what happens is this, we just have this excess amount. And that's what we deem as kind of the negative part, where we're like, ooh, I look greasy, I look oily, I need to cleanse, right? It's that
Mhm.
excess amount that just didn't make it into the hair. The problem when we're dealing with detergents essentially is this, is they don't just remove the surface. What they do is they bond so intensely that they actually kind of pull out all of that nourishment that we've got into the strand of hair. That's why oftentimes you'll hear people say, oh my God, my hair looks so much better, like, 3 days in after I've washed my hair, right? It's
Yeah.
because you're starting to build back some of that thing that was naturally kind of helping you. And
Yes.
so the science of new wash is actually this. It is actually that we have designed something that is 100% detergent free, meaning that it's not a detergent, it's not a liquid soap, it's not bonding both to it's bonding to the oil. It loves it a lot. But the trick with us is that it bonds to water weaker. And so we just get to gently remove that because those aren't equally charged. Does that make sense?
Yes, but can you tell me, like, what are the ingredients, or is it the combination of some ingredients that
It's
bonds tighter? Is it the aloe? Like, what is it?
it's the bonding of some of those ingredients that are designed specifically to grab a hold, that are really like designed to be really, I like you a lot,
To
right? And so, and
to work like
that's
a mild
that's
detergent.
it's a zero detergent, because the detergent would be
Yes.
essentially, we can bond to something that we really like attracts like, so we can create that, but we just shift the bond to the water to be weaker, which is why we say that you have to rinse really well, because when it's equally charged, it is really effective at pulling everything out, but it pulls everything out.
And I
So,
consider that would dehydrate the hair also. Even
yes,
though you're sitting there like rinsing with water, you're pulling water out of the hair. So this is never gonna do that. The other thing about shampoo is that it has a naturally higher pH than
mhm,
water. And
yep,
because the goal is to even open the cuticle a little bit to pull more
yep,
out, to
yep,
really get it squeaky. We're so addicted to the suds and the squeak.
yeah,
I'm gonna grill you on this more and later on, because
yep,
I want to know what it is that's bonding, because I really want to understand it. But
yep,
what I love about it for so many of my clients is that it doesn't increase the pH of the hair, and so the hair cuticle, especially for my tangle prone clients, those people that you dread getting them in the shampoo bowl, because as soon as the water hits their hair, it's like it seizes up like Velcro onto itself. And you're like, God bless. And their hair's always really long. And you're like, I'm going to be here for an hour. But New Wash really helps with that a lot.
I
So
love
I really love that. And that helps. And they will say to me, this has changed my hair for me at home. And I love that. I mean, that makes me feel so good because I really love it. So I can't even compare it to any of the co-washes that I've used, because it doesn't weigh my hair down at all,
it.
at
And
all.
that's the thing too. I
But
think
you
that,
have to use enough of it. That is the trick. If you don't use enough, then your hair's not getting clean enough. And that
and
will weigh your hair down.
that is one of the things that I think is most important. And so when we understand that from that base level, that
Yeah.
it's designed to grab onto the thing that we want to remove, I always call it being a good matchmaker. You need to be like, hey, excess oil, I got someone I think you're really gonna love here, honey.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure you're being a good matchmaker. All that excess oil needs to
Yes.
meet the new wash so that it can bond, and then we work it in really well, and then we rinse it out really well, just because we have to be a little extra thorough when we have something that's not equally charged to the lipid, and also equally charged to the water. So that is the thing.
Okay. Speaking of lipid, Wes, are you familiar with the exocuticle?
No, give it to me.
Okay. I
So
just read about this the other day. The exocuticle is actually the fourth layer of your hair strand that most people don't have anymore. You are born with it. It is a lipid layer on the outside of your cuticle. And as you get older and you brush your hair and you use shampoo, because that's what you start, baby shampoo ruins it. It's the worst. Everybody should be using this on their babies. So this actually supports that lipid layer of your hair. So it never gets tangly. You know how babies get the tangly hair from the
yeah,
cradle and the crib and stuff? Like I need y'all to like market this to babies. You need to like put a little
exactly.
baby thing on it. I'm just telling you, because like it's so good for kids' hair because you're born with a lipid layer on your hair that just
Uh,
gets destroyed from shampoo. And so Johnson and Johnson's out there making a fortune off destroying this lipid layer. But as your hair continues to grow out, it naturally grows with a lipid layer, with that exocuticle. And
yeah.
so if all your hair has ever known is something like new wash, you continue to support it as it continues to grow out of your head, which I think is really neat. And I think that's a big part of what's starting to really change a lot of my clients' hair as I'm starting to see them year over year using this product. It's really interesting.
It's cool because it's like I feel like the integrity of the hair just starts to
Yes,
change over time, and I love that. I mean, that is one of the things. Like
that's the reason.
I always feel like for myself, like I get like I haven't had hair since we had Hair Story, honey. So I always have all these success stories that are not my own, but I watched it on my clients really start to transform their hair, and not in a, I hate that when people, I hate it when hair companies are like, it transforms your hair. I hate that. It just seems so markety,
It
but
does.
it's
Yeah.
just like a real, as a person who deals with hair and knowing and seeing the transition that people have gone through, it's really kind of remarkable. So it's one of my favorites. And also it's one of those things where I think that the curly and wavy community, really when we talk about like a co-wash, the original intention was people just really inherently understood that that shampoo was too stripping. And so co-wash was really born out of this space that was
Yes.
washing with conditioner. But the reality is that a lot of people didn't know at that moment, was conditioner is the cheapest way to make hair feel soft after stripping it is silicone.
Yes.
And they put a
Yes.
lot of silicone in conditioner, and that's why some of the problems began to happen,
Yes.
because silicone should not, I mean, I'm not saying that silicone doesn't have a place. I'm not that person, but I am saying that silicone does not belong on your scalp ever.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and,
Yeah.
and so when you're trying to wash with something that was silicone based as a conditioner, it can be problematic. Now,
It can
other
be
people
very
have
problematic.
taken it and used just the term and created something new with it. But I just
Yes.
kind of check that out. So we call it a cleansing cream around here. But
Yes. Yes. A cleansing. I call it a cleansing conditioner, but I absolutely love it. So anyway, it's made a
I
big
love
difference. It made my hair down to answer her question. So
I
yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
So this has been so informative. I mean, I feel like the thing is that I love about you is that I think that you have a rare gift, and I want to celebrate you just for a moment as we close up today, because, I think you have done so much of the work to understand hair to help people. And what I really love about you is that you have this beautiful ability to break down very complex information and allow people to leave really understanding it more easily and really kind of start to build that knowledge bank for
Thank you.
themselves. And that is a rare gift. And I think that the world owes you a big thank you for continuing on this, because it's not easy. It's not easy to understand and then try to relay complex information, and your dedication to having people really get it so their lives are better. I really appreciate, and I always appreciate it when we get to spend time with each other. So
Thank
thank you
you,
for this.
Wes. That makes me feel so good. I sometimes feel like I'm a broken record a little bit, but new people tend to find me and they go, wait, what is this that I need to know? And so like I just keep saying the same thing in different ways until everybody gets it, because I, learn more about hair, like learning about the exocuticle. I learn more all the time just in reading. I'm like, that is so fascinating. Our bodies are so fascinating.
Yeah.
Our hair is so fascinating. And so when we can believe that it's fascinating and then also understand how it works, then we can get what we want out of it. And that just makes us feel good about everything. And I think that's really important. And so if that's the little gift that I can leave with the world, then I've done my job. So
Well, we
thank you
appreciate
for letting me
that.
share it on here. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me be on here today.
Absolutely. And for everybody who's out there in the audience, once again, this link that you have used to RSVP to this class will also be the link to the replay. So if you want to gain more knowledge, we also encourage that you send this link out to as many people that you feel could benefit from this information. We really love that this is a sharing community. And of course, definitely check out any of these links here. If you're a hairdresser out there, definitely check into the Carious page with Alyson Lupo, and then the Wavy Life, definitely the classes. So check that out.
Yes, and stylists get a free pouch of New Wash, don't they, if they sign up at that
Yeah.
link?
And,
Awesome. Okay,
and
good.
if you're not a hairdresser, we vet it. So honey, don't even try.
They do. They do.
But
But every now and then you guys will do a free pouch or you'll do
yeah,
an extra discount
most
to like
definitely.
let
So
people try it. And I think the rate of people coming back to buy again speaks
amazing.
volumes because
It's
it
amazing.
really is. You guys make great products. And when that gel comes out, Wes, I'm going to be all over it.
Exactly. On the
Thank you guys
record.
for joining. Y'all are so sweet. Thank you for
Yeah.
jumping on and answering and sharing your questions. It's so much fun to get to chat with you guys. So thank you so, so much.
Awesome.
And yeah, thank you, Wes.
Thank you. Bye. Talk
Bye,
soon. Thank you.
guys.
So I hope you enjoyed that little interview. We had a ton of fun making it, but I think more than anything, it's not just about fun, it's about education. And that's the thing that I've always been big on because it's the thing that made the most difference for me. So if you're big on understanding how something works, then you'll get it to work for you, and that includes your hair. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have questions, as always, drop them down below. I hope you have a wonderful fall, and I'll see you guys very soon. Have a great curl day. Bye.